Okay, so let's continue. There's no one online. All right. Okay, we did questions now on quantitative aspects of budgeting. I did one on learning curve as well. I feel like I can go to variances. Budgeting we have done. Only thing I wanted to do one on moving averages. There is no question, so I'll just go to variances. So you all know the basic variances. These guys close at 5. No, that number she sent. So you all know the basic variances, right? You all know what variances are. Variances are differences between budgeted and actual performance, right? And when you calculate a variance, you have to, it's the flex budget with the actual, not the original budget, right? So you have the sales variances, you have the material price usage variance. Those are the basic ones. Labor rate, efficiency. Then you know the formulas. You need to write all the formulas. You know that you can be asked to work backwards as well. Variable overhead variances, and you have fixed overhead variances. All formulas are given to you all. You'll need to learn it and to apply it, right? So I'm not going to spend time there. Oh, this is not your variance one. This is the... There are two tubes, one for MBA, one for PM. Yeah, this is the PM one. There's a fixed overhead variances. Then guys, the main thing for you all at this level is what? The advanced variances. So with advanced variances, what are the main variances we looked into? We learned that the material usage variance can be divided into material mix and material yield. Material mix basically is when you change the mix of ingredients. How will your cost change? Now in general, when you put in more of the expensive ingredients, the cost is likely to rise. When you put in more of the less expensive ingredients, the cost is likely to fall, right? And what is yield variance? Yield variance is basically when it compares the inputs of material to the output. The output that you got, was it with the required input? Or with the required input, did you get more output than planned or less output than planned? Okay. So the mix variance, how do you calculate? It's the difference between the mixers. So actual quantity at the actual mix is what you enter first. Then that actual quantity that you have there, you see, okay, if this was entered in the standard mix, then what should have been the division? You take the difference, multiply by the standard cost, and then calculate the variance. Yield variance, it's the difference between the actual quantity and the standard quantity. Can you see that? Mix is the standard mix we are using. Can you see that? Standard mix for both. Take the difference, multiply by the standard cost, and you get the variance. So basically, when your actual quantity changed from the standard quantity, right? The input quantity, when it changed, right? How was the yield affected? How was the output affected? Then you have the sales mix and yield. This is basically when you sell products, like let's say multiple products. And if you're changing the mix of sales, how will profit be affected? Right? So the sales mix is actual quantity you're using, but first the actual mix and then the standard mix. Can you see that? Look carefully. One is the actual mix, one is the standard mix. Difference, if it's marginal costing, we use contribution. If it is absorption costing, we use actual profit to find the variance. Sales quantity or yield variance, basically when the quantities we sold changed, the actual quantities and the budgeted quantities, when it changed, how was profit affected? So you can see the standard quantity in the standard mix, meaning the budget, how much you wanted to sell. You compare it to the actual total quantity if it was divided in the standard mix. So only difference is the quantity sold. Can you see that? When that changed, the quantity sold changed, how did your profits change? Then furthermore, variances can be divided into planning and operational variances. What are planning variances? Variances that occur due to planning factors or factors that are not in your control. Operational variances are variances that occur because of things that you could have controlled. So basically we have a plan, a revised plan based on the new conditions. Difference between planned and revised planned is the planning variance. The revised plan is what we can achieve now in the current conditions. The difference between the revised plan and the actual is the operational variances, what you could have controlled. So for every variance you can see they have divided. The sales variance can be divided into market volume and market share. Market volume or the size variance is the planning variance. That's when the market share changed or the market size changed outside. No, when the market size changed outside, when the market contracted or expanded. So you take the revised sales minus the budget, the difference between revised and budget, into the standard margin. The market share is how did your company manage? How did your market share increase or not? Something you controlled. So that's the difference between your actual sales and the revised sales. Got it? So similarly, even the material variances, price can be divided into operational and planning. Usage can be divided into operational and planning. Right? Labor also, revised hours, you have the actual hours and you have the standard hours. Difference between revised and actual is operational. Difference between standard and revised is planning. You all know, right? Labor rate, that's a revised rate, actual rate and the standard rate. Idle time is always negative. It's basically the hours worked and the hours paid. Especially if you have paid for hours not worked, there will be idle time. So when you use planning and operational variance, the advantages are that it will highlight aspects of or the variances which you could have controlled and which you could have not controlled. Therefore, the managers are not held responsible for things they couldn't control. And you have a proper idea as to how well your company performed in relation to the conditions in the market. So we can analyze our situation better and analyze our performance better as well. Managers' acceptance of the use of variance for performance measurement and their motivation is likely to increase if they know they will not be held responsible for poor planning. If we are not holding them responsible for poor planning, they know that, okay, we are not just going to be blamed, right? The planning and standard setting process should improve. Standards should be more accurate, relevant, and appropriate. Operational variances will provide a fairer reflection of actual performance. Limitations of planning and operational variances. What should a standard be? Like setting the standard might be a difficult thing to do first. And also it might become now, because you are dividing into planning and operational, managers might try to push everything towards planning variances. They will try to hide their bad performance by pushing it into a planning variance. They might try to blame everything on as being as planning. Revising and analyzing variance into planning and operation will take time and it can be costly as well. Do managers use correctly this meaningful information? How can it improve their performance? Just calculating the variance is not a thing, right? Getting meaning out of it and understanding it is what matters, right? And taking corrective action on them is what matters, end of the day. Revise an original budget. So generally, you should not always allow staff to revise the budget. There are situations where you should allow them to revise. Let's say conditions have actually changed and there's a big change, right? Significant change. At that point, you allow revisions. But if there's like minute changes and if the cost of revising is greater than the benefit, then we should not allow for the revision. You disallow. Not beyond. It's when do you allow them to revise the budget? You know, if you always allow them to revise the budget, they will always go and revise the budget. Can you understand? So we should only allow them to revise the budget in situations where we feel like a budget revision is needed. So when budgets are prepared, it's important to make sure that there is goal congruence, that the entire company is working in the same direction, right? And it's important to avoid the dysfunctional behavior like budgetary slack, right? Or dysfunctional behavior, meaning when one department is doing one thing, company wants another thing, everyone's moving in different directions. That's called dysfunctional behavior. So we try to avoid that at all points, right? And also you should try and avoid budgetary slack. That means like purposely overestimating the expenses. Budgeting can also lead to staff motivation. That's mainly when the staff are involved in the budgeting process. And also if the budget is achievable, budgets should not be too difficult, nor should it be too easy, right? If it's too difficult, it will demotivate. Even if it's too easy, it won't even, like, you won't want to put extra effort, right? So standards also, there are different kind of standards. Ideal, that's when under perfect conditions. Current, like currently what you're doing. Attainable, something that you can attain, right? So you try to get employees to participate in the budgeting process in order to make them more motivated, but it will take time. There are drawbacks. Just-in-time approaches. Just-in-time is a approach where you're trying to reduce cost, right? But at the same time, it also tries to continuously reduce wastage, like it's a Japanese system. What is TQM? It's also a continuous improvement system, Japanese system, where we are continuously trying to make small improvements, right? So in a JIT and a TQM environment, we will see high levels of automation, high levels of overheads, customized products produced in small batches. There will be low stock, they won't keep stock, and they emphasize mostly on what? Quality. Just incorporated that as well.
So what time did we do last week?
5. Last week, what time did I finish?
Went up.
I did it 5:15 or no? I did not mark it properly. I put it as 5. I think I finished that 5:15ish. Remember? I can't remember honestly. Last week, what was the day? I deleted my Uber app, so I can't see what time I left. I otherwise check my Uber. Last week.
Today is 19, right? I think I know.
What time? Today I'm planning to finish by 5. So let's take questions on variances. I'm just planning to do one question from advanced and one question from planning operation. Won't take that long. Who? They marked as section C.
And they give the recommendation part, like where I have that question.
So you are able to improve your
Note
answers.
of it, and then later onwards, like closer to the exam, you can look into those.
But sometimes are they giving you like very big questions to work on?
No, I mean, I think the question, the case
So, okay. So the marks, you feel like the answers are not too long. Chat GPT's answers.
They don't give an answer.
Or they just tell you how to improve your
They
answer.
just predict them. This is where, like
You're lacking.
the market scheme wanted me to
Answer, but you have not
something
answered.
like that.
Milbao Co. makes and sells 3 types of electronic games for which the following budget, standard information and actual information is available for a 4-week period. 5:30. So I have put lesser time. Yeah, even I remember last week I finished a little late.
Junction, it was 5:50.
Yeah, when I reached home late last week. It was raining also, no?
Yeah.
I don't know, this is... Oh, this is not last week. This is last week.
19 today.
First class I finished at 5 or 5:30.
That also went late.
That also 5:30.
We
No?
didn't finish 5:30.
No, it's first class. We were in that class, right?
Yeah,
And
so
then
did I finish
we
it?
missed the section to adding the table, and then I went to better train.
That was the last week.
Week before also
That
right
was
after.
that.
That was what time?
That almost became 6, right? Remember?
I think 5:30. That's why you went to
No,
get
it was exactly 5. My
Five.
friend was at 5, you went 3. I left at 5, and then you also left at 5.
Then no.
Because you know, me, and then you got me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
last week I was alone in the class.
Yeah, she was there. You went after you went also I was going with you. I had to mark the times properly.
The
Okay.
day we went like till 6. I was which day then?
Yeah, it's there on this, no? 540. Basic variances yield. We got it 540.
Budget.
Okay, budgeted fixed costs are 2.5 million for the 4-week period. Budgeted fixed costs should be charged to product units at an overall budgeted average cost per unit where it is relevant to do so. Calculate the sales volume variance for each model and in total for the 4-week period where contribution and net profit is used as a variance valuation base. Oh, first one to use contribution as the base. How do you calculate sales volume variance? Not sales quantity, sales volume variance. What's the formula for sales volume variance? Sales volume variance. They're asking to first use contribution as the base.
Actual minus budgeted into budgeted.
Actual quantity minus standard quantity into standard quantity.
Do we have to write the equation?
No, I'm just writing it first. Into standard contribution first because they're asking to first use it, do it using contribution. Okay. So it's 3 products now, so I have to like do it in a table.
Why are there so many students for tax class? Yeah.
That tax is a full-time tax class. That full-time PM class is also coming. It was supposed to be in Jan and then they changed it to April. Yeah, it'll be a full-time PM class like every day. we have. PM, no. Now full-time tax is going. That same batch will do full-time PM in April.
Time means like weekday.
Weekdays, it'll be just 1 month. Every day they will have that month. 1 month, every day they will have.
Every day.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like for 5 weeks we will have. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now my schedule is coming according to my roster in April, after Ramzan.
Preparing for June.
Preparing for June exams. Because I am not taking January intake. So I'll be taking that April full month, but I will have a set of students going for June exams. That batch has 55 students, Jan, total. That same batch did another subject, then they did tax. I think they did FR first, then they did tax. Now they will be transferred to me after this for June session for PM. It might be, no, because they come every day, right? So, and actually students in those classes are also like very interested. You all also interested, not that I'm saying you all are not, but they're in that mindset. No, we have to get it done. So
No, I mean, I have to do the other 3 I counting it as
you have to come daily. Then 1 month it's over.
daily.
But there's a roster for it. It doesn't now this it will go. It's a 1 year program. Or I think for the skills level it will be 2-year program. So PM will come only in, let's say, for a year once.
Once a year.
Yeah, that will be once a year only, that full time batch. I'm not taking January intake this time. Now am I taking April intake? I don't know if I'll have to take April intake, but I'm taking April the full time batch for June. Standard quantity, then you take the difference, you multiply by yes, that's because of that. Standard quantity, actual quantity, difference you multiply by the standard contribution. But for PM, very less this time. But when I take that batch, I'll have a lot of students sitting. It's good for us to have a lot of students sitting because we can look at a higher pass rate, no? But it's fine. Even with the students, 10 students sit, a pass rate is good that they will just see on the 10 how many pass. How do you calculate contribution? Selling price minus the variable cost. 60.
If they produces no passes, then it's like they get the higher certificate.
Yeah, they get a higher certification. We have to maintain that pass rate for about 1 year or two years. Then only they give you that certification. For 2 years continuously, you should beat the standards. Then only we are having gold now. To get platinum only before this Mercury had. long time before. If we want to get platinum for the next 2 years, continuously, we should meet the standards. Then we get it. That we need to have for every class or every session, we need to have at least. Now, let's say we are taking 8 subjects. In at least 4 subjects, our pass rate should be higher than global pass rates.
That's easy, right?
It's not that easy to achieve. Especially when they sit for APM and APM and all pass rates are very low. All right. So skills level is good. Actually, PM it's been good always. I think out of last few sessions for PM, whatever I have been taking, every session we have met, but one session we didn't meet. You know what that session was? When I was in India. Because I had to go to India for the Bangalore session. I think that session we missed.
Someone else could go.
No, I only did it. But 1 month we were there. So we realized then that doesn't work. That's why we have like now.
20 classes there.
Now we don't. Now that was initially when we started off with the Indian lectures. Now we make sure that it doesn't conflict. It doesn't affect here, because that session it got not only mine, another subject also got affected in that session.
So 80 classes from there.
That was difficult. Meaning students like lost that last month, no? And that was the last month before exam. Oh, and that batch was a big batch also. And there were a lot of students in that batch.
So then if you miss it for one time,
We go back again to square one. Can you understand? So now we are good. So it's not easy at all to get that. Okay. Hopefully that's been the plan for the last few sessions. Yeah, we're also making trying to. That's why we're having all these revision sessions, finishing syllabus before 1 month. All of it is with the intention of increasing pass rates. Variance.
I mean, like, my opinion, most of the bioexperience are money grab.
For us, I don't think. But they obviously want to make returns. But then, in order to make long-term returns, we also have to maintain proper standards. So what happens otherwise? Most institutions who only were behind returns, then
Yeah, true. That is true. And
It doesn't
also the
work.
fact that it's like they privatize students for all rates and services for free and stuff like that. So it's like
how much now for so long? Because you know what happens? Those packages that we are giving, that were supposed to be monetary packages, the ones you are getting for free of charge. That 7 recording one, high investment for that, because we got guys to record the back end stuff, continuously working on that. High investment, but we have been giving that for free for so long. Even the lecturers, we need to get a percentage of that. Even the lecturers are not taking it. So we are also like coordinating with them on certain things, like meaning we are also not taking that. For so long it's been given for free. So hopefully one day we'll make money out of it. So now we are not. Maybe
Like,
one
people
day.
ask me where to study these students. I don't remember.
For ACCA, I feel this is for now. I honestly will tell anyone who asks me it's good. Because you get a good package, right? Because I'm not saying because I am lecturing here, but I feel it's good for students. They get recordings, they get extra revision, syllabus is done on time, everything is looked into. So
yeah, I niece who
class sizes are not too big. I did
is too smart, like, so smart. It's like whatever she does, she takes record notes. So I'm like, I recommend her to PPIM.
they're doing good.
They support the students in all the ways they can.
And also the plans are put in such a way, no, it's not when we initially started, and it's actually very difficult to coordinate it. We need more lecturers for a subject. We can't do it one. When I was doing it alone, it was so difficult for me, because it's not possible, right? Let's say I was doing PM all by myself at one point. 2 years now, last 1 year Rukman sir is doing, and we have so many sirs for PM. But 4 now we have, because you need to have that. They're sending to India also, and I cannot go to India. I said I can't do that. I went one session, but after that it was very difficult for me.
Like IIT and stuff, IIT is lot of problem.
I IIT meaning?
The IIT, bubble IIT,
There's another ACCA called IIT.
they take like
Okay.
thousands of minutes. But they
That is for ACC. Actually, Mercury also did it like that. Mercury also, we had a lot of students.
why is it not
I studied in Mercury. We all studied. I mean, Jan's, we all are from Mercury. I think most of all the lecturers here are somehow connected to Mercury. They probably studied at Mercury or they worked at Mercury.
This platinum business school and PPIM and everyone are breakoffs from Mercury.
Everything is breakoff. Platinum Business School, they have a breakoff from Mercury. The Mercury opened a business school, Mercury Business School. So that they, I think, moved off to Platinum. I remember like that. Their management failed. Yeah. You know, the only problem I have is this will be live streaming on YouTube. Let's not talk about it. Okay. Right. Okay, standard profit. Now we have to calculate the profit here, guys, because they asked you to calculate the sales volume variance for each model and in total for the 4-week period where contribution and net profit is used as a variance valuation method. So first we use contribution and calculated the variance. How do you use net profit and calculate the variance here now? Budgeted fixed cost for the period. Budgeted fixed cost should be charged to the product units at an overall budgeted average cost per unit. Where it is relevant to do so. We have to find fixed cost per unit. How do you do that? 2.5 million has to be divided by the total budgeted quantity. So what's the budgeted fixed cost per unit? You take 2.5 million. Divided by 100,000. 25. So what is the profit then from contribution? You minus the fixed cost per unit, correct? That will be your profits. For everything you have to keep minusing the fixed cost. Oh, what's your total variance here, by the way? I have not calculated that. So when you use contribution, the volume variance was that much. When you use profit, it was 76,000 negative. I think something is wrong somewhere. I was also speaking, so let's see. Correct. They've calculated for each unit. 360 minus 440, 96 total, that's okay. 210, 240 minus 46 minus. They have not taken the total. They've just taken for each unit and left it. But it's okay. This way, each unit is also there, right? Have they asked for every unit? Calculate the sales volume variance for each model and in total. So we have taken the totals as well. It's correct. Both are correct. But when you use contribution, it was more negative. When you take net profit, that's my problem. How is that possible? When you use contribution, it was minus 100. Shouldn't it be lesser the total there? Or this should be more. Let me double check. The individual figures are right though. But when you use contribution, it was negative 176. How come when you're using profit, it's lesser? Oh, probably. Oh, no. You know, it's a overall no. Because probably some were too high, some were too low. Can you see that? That's the reason. Anyways, it's correct. Next one, they're asking us, calculate the total sales quantity and sales mix variance for Milabo for the 4-week period using contribution as the valuation basis. Variances for individual models are not required. They just wanted the total. So they want the sales quantity variance. What's the formula for the sales quantity variance? Go to advanced variances. You have your doubts, no? I have to look into that also. Sales quantity and mix. So let's do sales mix first. Or we'll do quantity first because they're asking quantity first. They asked for quantity first, right? Sales volume, variance, sales quantity. Oh, they did say we'll do sales mix first. Total sales quantity and mix. Okay, we can do anything. Let's do sales quantity first. What's the sales quantity variance? Not the volume, the quantity variance. What's the formula for it? See whether you all remember. Volume is the total volume units we use. Actual quantity, we don't take mix into consideration. For the quantity variance, we are taking the standard mix. Mix. Yeah, yield variance. So we are taking the mix, right? The standard mix. For the volume variance, we just took the actual quantity, standard quantity. We did not divide it in the mix, no?
Yeah.
So here, what do you do? Actual quantity sold in the standard mix. Then standard quantity sold in the standard mix. Difference multiplied by the standard contribution. So now, what are the models? Superb, excellent, good. Standard quantity in the standard mix is basically the budget. How do you divide the actual quantity? What is the total actual quantity? What's the total actual quantity units? 36,000 plus 42,000 plus 18,000, right? Actual quantity. If this was sold in the standard mix, 96,000 multiplied by 3 divided by what? 10. 96,000 multiplied by 5 divided by 10. 96,000 multiplied by 2 divided by 10. Okay, now take the difference. Multiply by the standard contribution. They told you use contribution, right? So contributions were 60, 55, 48. 60, 55, 48. And then you get the variance. They only wanted the total, but we have to take individually as well to get the total. Because we are only following this format, no? Take the total as well. So that's your sales quantity variance. How do you do the sales mix variance? Standard, no. Actual, what is it? Actual quantity in the standard mix. Actual quantity in the actual mix. Actual quantity in actual mix meaning the actual units.
Yeah.
I think that's how it was.
Actual quantity.
Yeah, this is not this is not okay. This is sales, this is income. For the material only you take it that way.
It doesn't really matter.
You have to, because my format is in a way that it automatically comes, no?
I mean, does it matter in the
Yes, it will, because if it's like this, if you're using logic and doing it won't matter.
Yeah.
But if you're just doing it in a flow, then it will matter, yes.
Because mine is quite different.
If you're using the logic, then yeah, then it won't matter. But if you are doing it using like a format, then go with this. So actual quantity in the actual mix, what did we actually end up selling? 36,000. 96,000 units. Now if this actual quantity was divided in the standard mix, already we have it right on top, we did it. So we'll just paste it. Take the difference. Multiply by the standard contribution. And get your answer. It's pretty simple, right? Variances are very easy. That's because you have not studied it no initially.
Variance. Practice on it. Just gives me a number.
You have to practice, then only you'll know the flow of doing it, right? But there's a very important question in this that I want to do, correct? Which is a little different to what we have learned, right? I think I don't know if I did it in class already, but it was a question that I always want to do in class. What was it, for planning and operational? Okay, we'll quickly do that and then we can stop. That question, yeah, it's a planning and operational question. I hope I picked the right.
It's when the exam results.
Wait here. Truffle lock, Midco grey shot. I think it was truffle. Exam results will come about 1 month later. Wait a minute. Let me just quickly check if this is the question that I'm looking for. Yes. There was a reconciliation question, No, not bank reconciliation.
Going backwards.
Wait a minute. There's a reconciliation question. I want to particularly do that. This is what we've done. School uniform, we've already done it. What's that question? Can't be grayish, but also again. Did you or anyone come across that reconciliation question? Wait, I think it was also, maybe it was in the section A. Very good question. I always do it in during division because it's a different question. It's in section A. There are 7 questions here. There's a reconciliation, they will ask you to. This. Let me quickly look into the. Denzel ko. This one. Can you see here? The first question. Okay, this is the question. Denzel makes and sells a single product. The company budgeted to make and sell 120,000 units in November. The standard cost of labor for the product was as follows. Labor 1.2 hours at 12 per hour. Actual output for November was 122,000 units. Labor cost for the month were as follows. So the monthly labor cost is given as 58,600 at 12.6. It's the actual one. Prior to the calculation of variances, it has been decided to revise the standard cost retrospectively to take account of the following, which are considered to be outside the control of management. A 3% increase in labor rate to 12 per hour due to negotiations with union that were concluded after the initial standard had been set. So standard rate is 12, revised standard is 13, actual is 12.6. A standard for labor use had anticipated that the company would buy a new machine which would lead to a 10% decrease in labor time instead of buying a new machine. Existing machines had been improved, so a more appropriate standard is considered to be 1.4 hours per unit. Standard hours is 1.25, revised standard is 1.4, actual how to find 158,600 hours divided by 122,000. Look at the first question. Prepare a statement reconciling the standard labor cost of actual output based on the original standard with the actual cost. The reconciliation should show the total planning variance and the total operating variance. How will you do that? We have not done it before, right? That's what I said. No, but they're asking prepare a statement reconciling. Let's see what they're asking first. Prepare a statement reconciling the standard labor cost of actual labor. So we have to take the standard labor cost for actual output. That means for the actual units produced according to standard, what should have been. Correct? Then with the actual cost. Then guys, what's happening in between here? There's a revised standard, right? So there's also a revised, we have to also find the revised standard labor cost. Revised labor cost for actual output. Correct? And we have to also take the actual labor cost. Now when you're reconciling it, they're telling to reconcile it based on planning and operational variances. Okay, first wait. What's the standard labor cost for actual output? According to standard, what was the labor cost? The standard cost of labor for the product was 1.25 hours per unit into 12 per hour is your standard labor cost for 1 unit. Actually, how many units did you make? Actually, how many units did you make? Actually, how many units did you make? The actual output for November was 122,000 units. So what is your standard cost for actual output? $1,083,830,000, right? What was your actual cost? What is the revised standard? According to the revision, the revised rate was 13. The revised time was what? How many hours?
1.4.
Revised time is 1.4. They told to take 1.4. So 1.4 hours per unit into 13 per hour, and you're making. So what was your revised cost? They told you while you're reconciling, find out the planning and operational variance as well. Now tell me the difference between standard and revised is what? Difference between standard and revised is what? Planning variance or operational variance? Difference between planning and revised is what? Planning variance. So what's your planning variance here? Planning variance has been what? It's a plus. That means costs have gone up. So it's an adverse variance, right? The costs have gone up due to planning reasons. So it's an adverse variance. I do it with logic. Costs have gone up. The standard and revised costs have gone up. So it's an adverse planning variance. Difference between revised and actual is what?
Right.
Operational variance. With operational, the costs have gone down. Correct. We are now here finding the total planning, all the different kind of planning. Labor. No, this is labor rate. Labor rate, total labor planning. That is the labor rate and labor efficiency together. Right. Operational was what? Difference between these two. But operational variance cost has gone down. That means this is what? Favorable. Got it? Get it? This is how you do that. Why I particularly picked this question? Because we have not done it anywhere else before. Okay. Okay. Then analyze the planning variance into labor usage and labor price. So the labor, this variance is both the usage and price together. No? Then they ask you to divide it into usage and price. Divide it into usage and price. What's the labor usage planning variance? Tell me the formula. Labor usage, that's labor efficiency. What's the labor efficiency planning variance? Planning variance is what, guys? Difference between standard and revised standard. So what do you take for efficiency? Standard hours and revised standard hours. So if the revised hours are greater, it will go into a adverse variance, right? So take the standard hours allowed minus the revised hours into what?
Standard.
Rate. Right? Standard hours, according to standard, it was what? 12.125. Can I just write it here? Standard hours, then you have revised standard. Now, according to standard hours, listen carefully, it was 1.25 per unit. So, for 122,000 units, how many hours were allowed? According to standard, this many. Right? According to revised standard, 1.4 hours were allowed per unit. So, for 122,000 units, how many hours were allowed? Right? So, according to the standard, we wanted to take this many hours to make the actual units. We have to take the standard hours for actual units, no? But according to the revision, we have to now take a little longer because definitely they are taking some amount of hours longer. Standard rate was 12. So what's your labor efficiency planning variance? What's the labor rate planning variance?
Price minus
Standard rate minus the revised labor rate into what? Actual hours. Into what? Actual hours. Standard rate was 12. Revised rate was 14. Oh, 13, yeah. Actual hours was 158,000. 58,600. Now see, we have these two, but if we add these two together, we will get our total planning variance, which we already found on top. You can double check your answer. Oh no, it's different.
Shouldn't we take the revised hour?
No, actually, no. That's it. Correct, no? Planning usage. Don't look at their formula, it's confusing. This is wrong. Oh, revised rate. Okay, wait, this was revised rate per unit, no? The revised rate was not rate per hour, it was rate per unit. No, it was rate per hour. 12 per hour, 13 per hour. What have they done? Actual was okay. They have taken the revised hours, which I don't understand why they have used the reverse. They have used 170,800 hours. The sum of the planning and the total.
Yeah.
But the formula we have to take actual, right?
No, because it's planning, right?
Wait, let me look at the formula. No, but we have to go by the formula. Labor rate planning.
Actual hours paid.
Actual hours paid. No, I think it's a mistake here. You don't take the revised hours there. It's wrong for them to take the revised hours. But the problem is then on top, it doesn't, our answer doesn't balance. They have taken the revised time. They have not taken actual hours. They have taken the actual hours at standard time.
Oh, maybe revised minus standard.
Shouldn't we be revised when it's planning?
Yeah, but our formula, no, we always take the actual hours because labor rate, we are only looking at the difference in labor rate. We are only looking at the difference in labor rate on the actual hours.
Should be in planning.
No. Labor rate planning meaning what? The difference in labor rate for the actual hours because of a change in the rate. So for the actual hours is what we checked. No, what they have done is actual hours is okay. They have taken. No, answer hours is not balancing. To balance, we have to take the. We calculated the total altogether.
390.
What if you try using the revised factor? Oh,
You know why? You know why? In this case, it's like that. In general, we take actual hours. In this case, the planning variance has come only due to differences in what? Standard cost and revised labor cost for actual output. In this case, we have not taken the actual cost. We have found the planning variance by taking the difference between what? Standard labor cost for actual output and revised labor cost for actual output. So in this reconciliation, right? Because of this reconciliation only, other than that, generally this formula you don't change. But in the exam, how will they have marked this? It's a very conflicting situation there because we can't change a formula like that. Analyze the planning variance into labor usage and labor price planning variance.
check if it.
Labor rate, labor price.
In this, if you take the 390, 400, then we put the first variance, 378.
It's not about getting the answer, it's about the logic.
Yeah.
Can you understand?
Why does it somehow
Generally, we have to all questions we use actual hours. Then only in one question, why are we using suddenly the revised hours? You know why? Why the marking scheme has adjusted the second answer? Because this first answer, the first question they asked you was to find the planning and operational variances using the standard labor cost, using the revised labor cost, and using the actual cost. So the planning variance that came there was purely due to what? A difference in this 1.25 and 1.4. Difference in 12 and 13. Can you understand? So now when we go and put 1.3, when you put 12 and 3, this was 12 and 3. 12 and 3. But the hours, this was 1.4 hours, that was 1.25 hours. Can you see that? So when we are taking the actual labor hours, we didn't even use here. To get the planning variance here, did we use actual labor hours at all? We did not use it at all. So now when we go and use that, it's going wrong. But in a general situation, we use what? The actual labor hours, right?
But then it's uncontrollable, right?
No, it's not about being uncontrollable. It's about we are looking at a price variance for the actual hours we paid only. The actual logic is the first variance that I'm talking about is the right one. But in this situation, we have to use the revised hours, otherwise our answer will not tally. Why? Because in order to get this 390, 400, we did not use actual hours anywhere. Can you see that? So in this particular situation, if the question only comes like this, then we have to use this revised hours. We don't use the actual hours. Why? Because this 390, 400, if we want to tally with that, If we use the actual hours, it won't tally. But in any other situation, we have to use always the actual hours. Because that's the correct way of doing it. In this way, in order to tally to this, they've also analyzed the planning, the previous above one. It's a continuation of that. So when it's a continuation of a previous question, we have to do it like this. You're not getting it at all. You got it right. Look at this. How did they calculate this? How do you think they calculated this planning variance? When calculating this planning variance, at any point, look at the answer. Don't look at my face. Look at the. Look here.
I'm confused.
No, you look at the board. You're confused because you know.
No, I was confused.
Yeah, look at that. I think I have to take it again.
No.
Okay, so look at the board. Right now, see when they got this 390,400, they asked us in this question to do it that way. They told us to start with the standard labor cost for actual output, and they asked us to reconcile. So due to which we found the revised labor and we found the actual cost. Correct? The difference that we got here, the difference between standard and revised, we agreed was the planning variance, or differences due to planning. The difference that we found here, at any point, did we use the actual time? We used the standard time and we used the revised time. Can you see that? So it was found without taking the actual time. So when you go and use the actual hours here, the answer will not reconcile, or it will not match with this answer. They ask you the breakdown of this. So when they ask you the breakdown of this, we have to use the revised hours.
Another one for operational variance in labor and labor costs.
I am telling you what my advice is, if this comes as a continuation question similar to this, you use the revised hours. Okay. If not, always use the actual hours. Only in a situation like this, you compromise. No, but because they are telling to analyze that previous planning variance into the two parts. So we have to get that answer. If we use actual hours here, will we get that answer? We won't. Can you see that? It will not tell you.
Yeah, they have to split the planning.
Split it. Can you see that? They are asking us to divide that one above. So if it's a continuation, can you understand? Only at that point, please change this formula. If not, please use the general formula given to you. That's the actual hours. That's the right one. Right? This also may be right in this situation. Okay, based on the revised hours. What was your planning variance? That's what we are looking at. Purely based on the budget and the revision. Okay, then the theory questions. Principles of revising a standard and... Okay, the other one. I'm not doing that. I just wanted to only this part. Okay? So with that, we'll stop. Your questions.
I have thought that they need to mark my question.
You resent it. What's the question you have in this note? You want me to mark it?
Okay, basically.
I need I put my this thing about. Days are flying very fast.
Yeah. They have started being less productive.
Why? You have to be more productive.
I don't know.
This point you have to be more productive.
Having zero in the day.
Zero entertainment. So you need to add some entertainment, that means you're saying.
Right.
Guys, by the way, the 21st, 26th we are having a class, and then 28th also we'll be having a class. The 5th class, I didn't give you all a date, right? 26th Tuesday and 28th Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, that's the 5th class. That's for that mock exam discussion. You all have to do the mock paper before that, no?
Yeah.
When before the 28th.
Yeah, I think this week or next week, Saturday. Before the 28th, do the mock paper. You all told me that you all are doing that online. Okay, but before the 28th, do it because I put that class on the 28th. I can't go beyond that. Okay, bye.